Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you tonight.
There are subsidiaries in insurance, there are subsidiary in mutual funds and so forth. So there again the distribution takes place. So there is a very strong cross-sell and distributive part.
Huge cross-selling opportunities and profitable growth for home loans. The big post-merger game changer, says HDFC Bank Chairman Atanu Chakrabarti. Branch expansion and digital banking will go hand in hand. That's the big CNBC-TV18 exclusive tonight. Shares of IDFC surge as investors digest the share swap ratio for the merger with IDFC first, but shares of the bank drop over 3%. The bank's MD tells CNBC-TV18 the merger will bring 600 crore rupees in cash onto the bank's books. Adds the bank will raise 2,000 crore rupees by FY24 to meet its growth targets. The equity market shrugs off an initial bout of weakness but trades in a range in the absence of any significant triggers. The Sensex and the Nifty post a record close for the fourth session in a row, but mid-cap stocks under pressure. That index snaps a 5-day winning streak. Harley-Davidson and Hero Motor take on Royal Enfield in the 440cc segment with the launch of their co-developed X440 motorcycle. Sources say the bike will be sold at 300 Hero Motor outlets. In addition to Harley's own outlets, Bajaj and Triumph will unveil their own motorcycle tomorrow. Eicher Motors feels the heat. The stock slumps over 6% in trade. Facebook's parent Meta all set to take on Twitter with its new conversation app called Threads. The Twitter rival is visible on iOS and is expected to be available for download after its official launch on the 6th of July. Prime Minister Modi sends out strong messages to both Pakistan and China in his address at the virtual Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Says countries must curb terrorism and protect the territorial integrity of all SCO members. Welcomes Iran as a full member of the SCO. Top lawyers Harish, Salve and Mukul urge the Supreme Court to curtail the powers of the Enforcement Directorate. Say, and I quote, "No one is safe in the country if the ED is not reined in." They were arguing against the arrest of their clients, Basant and Pankaj Bansal, the promoters of Gurugram-based realty group M3M Developers. In a second attack of its kind, pro-Khalistan supporters allegedly set the Indian consulate in San Francisco on fire, but no major damage or injuries are reported. The US strongly condemns the violence, calls the attack a criminal offense. Ajit Pawar attends the cabinet meeting days after joining the Maharashtra government along with 8 other legislators. Top leaders remain tight-lipped about a possible cabinet expansion. Both Sharad and Ajit Pawar have called for a meeting of NCP MLAs tomorrow. China ring-fences itself as the global semiconductor battle heats up, imposes export controls on 2 metals crucial to manufacture semiconductors. From the 1st of August, Chinese exporters will need licenses to ship gallium and germanium compounds. We have a packed show lined up for you, but first to the action on the Lal Street, where the markets posted a record close for the 4th straight session. So the Nifty and the Sensex gained over 0.25%. The mid-caps, however, did underperform today, snapping that 5-day winning streak that they've been on. The index ended mildly in the red. Banks rising in line with the blue chips. The market cap of BSE companies hitting a record high of over 298 lakh crore rupees. The big newsmaker this evening, in his first interview since the merger of HDFC with HDFC Bank, Chairman Atanu Chakrabarti has said that the bank has huge cross-selling opportunities and that the lower cost of funds will make housing growth even more profitable. HDFC Bank completed the takeover of mortgage lender HDFC just last week, creating India's second-largest banking behemoth after State Bank of India. Chakrabarti said that over the next 5 to 6 years, the bank will grow at a fast clip across all sectors of the economy. He also said that the bank will focus on synergies following the merger and will be able to garner its funds at a much lower rate. He said this will enable growth of housing at a faster rate and also on the back of good margins.
Over the next 5 to 6 years, you can see this bank growing at a very fair clip across all sectors of economy. Housing has, as you see, has already been added. Then there is MSME, there is corporate. Then there is entire retail part, which starts with auto to personal loan to two-wheeler loan. And then there is the large priority sector lending, which extends from MSME, micro, to agriculture, to small and marginal farmers.
So one quick question on the housing market. Generally, a housing portfolio, works primarily on, lower interest rates or low yields. So, all in all, over a period of time, how do you think that this is going to really impact your net interest margin, so to speak?
Actually, that's where the synergies are coming. While already roughly 40 million customers were there with HDFC Limited, but unlike bank, they didn't have access to cheaper funds, which were the current account, savings, and so on and so forth. The bank, through its very large branch network, which is also very efficient and captures a very large part of the system's deposit and the savings in the country, is able to garner funds at much lower rate. And that's what makes the growth of housing not only possible, but also grow at a much faster rate.
But in the shorter
and
period,
also earn good margins there, as you asked.
Customer base is going to be a huge benefit from this merger. So what are the opportunities for you in terms of cross-selling of products to the HDFC customers?
As of now, roughly 30% of them are customers of the bank, of 40 million odd. So 70% straight away offer themselves as possible customers, and bank can offer them many other products on the personal loan side, on the retail side. Many of them may have business interest, and then there are subsidiaries. There are subsidiaries in insurance, there are subsidiary in mutual fund, and so on and so forth. So there again the distribution takes place. So there is a very strong cross-sell and distributive part.
That is the HDFC Bank Chairman Atanu Chakrabarty, and you can catch that CNBC TV18 exclusive interview right here on CNBC TV18 at 10 p.m. tonight. Well, staying with the other big bank merger, IDFC is expected to merge into IDFC First Bank within the next 9 to 12 months, and shares of IDFC surged in trade while IDFC First Bank fell after the merger swap ratio was disclosed. Now, investors holding 100 shares of IDFC will get 155 shares of IDFC Bank. Abhishek is standing by with the contours of the deal and what it means for shareholders. Abhishek.
IDFC Limited will get merged into IDFC First Bank. So IDFC First Bank will offer 155 shares of IDFC Bank for every 100 shares that you hold in IDFC Limited. So the deal price, as per yesterday's closing, is around 16% upside to IDFC Limited. The merger will lead to simplification of the corporate structure that is there for IDFC, FSCL, IDFC Limited, as well as IDFC First Bank. So by consolidating them into a single entity, it will help streamline the regulatory compliance as well. So they need, approval from various regulators like shareholders, creditors, stock exchanges, CCI, NCLT, RBI, and SEBI. As per their release, the book value of the standalone bank can increase by 4.9%. The scheme will take about 9 to 12 months for it to get completed.
We should also remember that IDFC Limited has approximately, give or take, about 600 crores of cash, which we're expecting to come as part of the merger into the bank, into the merged entity. Now, to that extent, the capital of the bank goes up as part of the merger, and that is already factored in that price. Our capital adequacy is now, we just raised some Tier 2 capital last week, by the way, of 1,500 crores. Our capital adequacy has become about 17.4%. With this, we'll get some more capital. And of course, raising capital becomes easy. We do expect, by the way, by end of this year to raise some more capital, about 2,000 crores. Okay.
We've Edinathan there on the IDFC First Bank merger. Reliance Jio launched a new internet-enabled phone at 999 rupees just 24 hours ago. The move is aimed at accelerating 4G adoption across India. Jio has an addressable market of 250 million people. Brokerages believe that this move could benefit the company in the long run. So how will this impact Jio's competition? Rima joins us now with the details. Rima, take us through the brokerage calls.
Thanks so much for that. So JP Morgan titles their report, Jio disrupting the bottom of the pyramid. The phone pricing is attractive, the specifications look good, they say, and they go on to add that Jio is getting aggressive at the top end and at the bottom end. If you remember, in March of this year, Jio had come out with very aggressive pricing for the premium postpaid category, and now with this device launch, they are getting aggressive at the lower end. Operators were increasing the tariffs for 2G plans. But now with Reliance Jio out there to garner those 2G subscribers, maybe a tariff increase, incremental tariff increase for 2G will now come to an end. According to JP Morgan, this development is negative for both Bharti Airtel and Vodafone Idea. They have an underweight rating on these stocks, and the Jio move also signals lack of support for a 4G tariff increase. MK believes Jio can garner, this new phone can garner about 100 million subscribers, but Vodafone and Bharti Airtel have roughly 100 million subscribers, and 40% of them can transition to a Jio phone, which will hurt the revenue and EBITDA of Vodafone Idea and Bharti Airtel. Goldman Sachs goes on to say that this development can have a 2% positive impact on Jio, 1% negative impact on Bharti Airtel. Vodafone Idea's EBITDA can get impacted by almost as 12%. Morgan Stanley believes the price point is quite attractive, but they do not see this as immediately disruptive for competition, because the break-even period for a new user, remember, he has to pay the $9.99 upfront, and he will be getting a monthly saving of 59.60 rupees if you compare it with the plans that competitors have. So the break-even is more than 15 months. So it won't be immediately disruptive, but they will be watchful.
Prima, many thanks for joining us, and the standard disclaimer on your screens. Hero Motor and Harley Davidson have joined hands to co-develop premium bikes for the Indian market. The first offering of this partnership is the X440. With this, both Hero Motor and Harley Davidson mark their foray into the 440 segment. Parikshit Luthra tells us more about the Hero Harley new offering and how it could possibly emerge as a rival to Royal Enfield.
The X440 will be the most important and biggest premium offering in Hero MotoCorp's lineup for years to come. This has been co-designed, co-developed with Harley Davidson, manufactured by Hero MotoCorp here in India. The engine has been developed by Hero MotoCorp with inputs from Harley Davidson, and this is a characteristic Harley Davidson motorcycle. The sound, the riding ergonomics, the styling and the design are all of that of a Harley Davidson. So what do you really get with this motorcycle? A 440cc engine, which gives you 38 Newton meters of torque, signature tail lamp, signature turn indicators, the headlamp, all of that is, it will give you the resemblance, the similarities of a Harley Davidson. Why is it important for Hero MotoCorp? Well, Hero MotoCorp hopes to get an edge in the premium segment with the 440cc motorcycle, and Harley Davidson hopes to get the scale in the India market. This motorcycle will be sold by Hero MotoCorp not just in Harley's 25 showrooms in the country, but in 300 selected Hero MotoCorp outlets across India.
All that Harley has been doing across the globe for their customers is now only going to get multiplied here through this co-created, co-developed product for Harley Davidson in India for India.
It was very clear that we would not leave the market but come back with a much stronger partnership that could produce a product that we probably couldn't have developed and certainly not manufactured in India on our own. So it's a very important product. It plays in the premium segment. It's part of our long-term strategy to selectively expand into areas that we have not traditionally been in.
So this will be important to see how this bet really pays off for Harley Davidson and Hero MotoCorp. It has been priced competitively at 2.29 lakhs as a starting price. So you will see it competing with the Triumph 400, which is coming up very soon, the KTM 390, the Royal Enfield Classic 350, the Himalayan as well. So let's see how this motorcycle does well for both Harley Davidson and Hero MotoCorp in India.
And there is more competition expected. Eicher Motors, which manufactures Royal Enfield, felt the heat today. The stock fell nearly 7% in trade. Bajaj Auto and UK's Triumph Motorcycles will launch their own 400cc motorcycles tomorrow. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that Bajaj Auto will keep the price under 3 lakh rupees as well. Shares of Adani Green rose in early trade after the company announced it will consider raising funds. The company's board will meet on the 6th of July to consider and approve the fundraising proposal. The big global story, Meta is all set to launch its rival to Twitter. Instagram Threads will go live on the 6th of July. That is the expectation. The app is being described as Instagram's text-based conversation app. It will be available on the iOS App Store on the 6th of July. According to the official Apple App Store listing, the app will gather information on contacts, browsing history, location, and search history. The big story tonight, the Enforcement Directorate has questioned Tina Ambani, wife of Reliance Group Chairman Anil Ambani, in connection with the alleged foreign exchange violation case. Yesterday, Anil Ambani appeared before the Enforcement Directorate in Mumbai in connection with the same case. Now, top lawyers Harish Salve and Mukul Rohini have urged the Supreme Court to curtail the powers of Enforcement Directorate. They said, and I quote, "No one is safe in the country if the ED is not reined in," end of quote. The two lawyers were arguing against the arrest of their clients, Basant and Pankaj Bansal, the promoters of Gurugram-based realty group M3M Developers. Ashmit Kumar joins us now with more. Ashmit, strong statements made against the ED by Harish Salve, accompanied by Mukul Rohini in this matter.
Indeed, some very strong comments being made with respect to the role that the Supreme Court needs to play in terms of quote-unquote reining in the powers of the ED. Now, just for context, the case at hand is that of the ED investigation into M3M directors and promoters, the Bansals, and the ED is essentially probing charges of bribery, bribes being paid allegedly by these persons to a special CBI judge. Now, as a part of that investigation, they were arrested on June 14th, and subsequently we've seen a whole host of proceedings. The Bansals moved, the Delhi High Court did not get any relief, and then finally this case came up before the Apex Court, where Harish Salve, flanked by the former Attorney General Mukul Rohini, made some very pointed suggestions. Number one, they argued that if these powers are not reined in of the ED, powers of arrest, if not reined in, then no one in the country will be safe. They went on to argue, to justify their stance by saying that in this case, the persons in question, the accused persons, Bansals, had been cooperating, that it is not the ED's case that they were not cooperating. Yet, despite that, the ED decided to go ahead, and that it does decided to go ahead and arrest the persons in question. Not only that, Harish Salve further argued that not only were they cooperating, there were also protective orders in their favor from the Punjab and Haryana High Court, and that this action by the ED is almost as if it is in circumvention of that Punjab and Haryana High Court, and that, importantly, that there is no argument made by the ED that there were any violation of the terms of that protective order. So the proceedings today ended with essentially the counsels for the affected parties, the Bansals in this case, pointing out that they will now be moving the jurisdictional court of Punjab and Haryana High Court for seeking relief. But it does raise the larger question of the powers of the ED. And I say that because in the month of July of last year, in 2022, is when the Apex Court had granted its approval to sweeping powers that the ED has for arrest, search, seizure, for attachment of assets. But importantly, just the very next month, in August of 2022, the Supreme Court decided to hit a pause and said, look, that there is perhaps a room for revisiting this judgment, relooking at the powers available to the ED, and that review continues to be pending before the top court. So important question that the Apex Court now need to perhaps look at.
Well, Harish Salve and the former Attorney General there in the Supreme Court saying that the Supreme Court needs to step in and rein in the powers of the Enforcement Directorate. And if they don't do so, no one in the country is safe. That is the comment coming in from Harish Salve. Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. We will head into a short break. But up next, China ring-fences itself as the global semiconductor battle heats up, imposes export controls on two crucial metals. Details when we return.
फिक्स डिपॉजिट खोल दूं?
नहीं यार, सेविंग्स अकाउंट।
FD is better. FD मतलब हायर इंटरेस्ट बेबी।
सेविंग्स अकाउंट मतलब पैसा। पास में बेबी।
FD।
सेविंग्स अकाउंट।
हायर इंटरेस्ट से तकलीफ है क्या?
FD तोड़ने की पेनल्टी से तकलीफ है।
FD।
सेविंग्स अकाउंट।
कोटक एक्टिव मनी। अब FD वाला इंटरेस्ट सेविंग्स अकाउंट में up to 7% per annum।
एक्टिव।
money.
Keep fashion fluid with Maersk Integrated Logistics.
What does it take to build India's largest startup platform? It takes a journey of starting out as an unknown and ending up as unforgettable. It takes more than 2 decades of celebrating the most influential and influencing the most celebrated entrepreneurs. From chronicling the stories of India's startup universe to becoming a success story in itself, as India's longest-running show on startups and entrepreneurship, celebrating 21 action-packed years of building India's biggest startup community. Young Turks at 21, only on CNBC-TV18 and CNBC-TV18.com.
Co-presented by LIC, हर पल आपके साथ।
Well, Prime Minister Modi addressed the virtual SCO Summit along with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russia's President Vladimir Putin. This was Putin's first summit after the Wagner mutiny in Russia. Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif was also in attendance. Prime Minister Modi sent out strong messages to both Pakistan and China, saying both countries need to curb terrorism and protect territorial integrity of all SCO members. Meanwhile, Russia's President Putin slammed Western countries, saying his country will stand up against Western sanctions and provocations. China's President Xi Jinping batted against protectionist policies and unilateral sanctions. He called for efforts to safeguard regional peace and ensure common security.
कुछ देश क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म को अपनी नीतियों के इंस्ट्रूमेंट के रूप में इस्तेमाल करते हैं, आतंकवादियों को पनाह देते हैं। एससीओ को ऐसे देशों की आलोचना में कोई संकोच नहीं करना चाहिए। ऐसे गंभीर विषय पर दोहरे मापदंड के लिए कोई स्थान नहीं होना चाहिए।
Hybrid warfare was unleashed against us. They are using unprecedented, illegitimate anti-Russian sanctions. I would like to emphasize that Russia counters all these external pressure, sanctions, provocations, and under current conditions, our country continues to develop.
Prime Minister Modi and President Putin there at the SCO Summit. Now, China is restricting the exports of 2 metals that are key to the manufacturing of semiconductors. This comes as a warning to both Europe and US in their escalating tech trade war over access to chips. These new regulations, which have been imposed on the grounds of national security, will require exporters to seek a license to ship gallium and germanium compounds starting the 1st of August. Sam Vadas joins us now with the details. Sam.
China has slapped export restrictions on key metals used to make semiconductor chips in a move widely seen as retaliation against US efforts to limit technology getting to China, just days ahead of Janet Yellen's visit to Beijing. The controls are on germanium and gallium and will come into effect on August the 1st. China says this is to safeguard national security. It means exporters of these materials will now need to get permission to send their goods overseas. They'll need to give information about where it's going and how it'll be used. And if they don't, they could face punishment or even criminal charges. Now, China is the biggest producer of both these elements. It makes up for more than 95% of global output of gallium, which is used for making chipsets for computers computers and phones. It also dominates in the production of germanium, which is used in fibre optics, semiconductors and solar panels. One view in the market is that this confirms Western worries that China could use its dominance as leverage to push back against sanctions on its own industry. It also highlights how China wants to keep the metals for itself, perhaps, as it pushes ahead with its own ambitions to gain a competitive edge in the face of that pressure. It comes after the Netherlands announced new restrictions on exports of some chip equipment, a move which is being seen as dealing a fresh blow to China's goals. Those rules will come into effect a month after China's on September the 1st. In Singapore, I'm Sam Vardis. Back to you.
Sam, many thanks for joining us. Spotlight now back home on the Maharashtra political potboiler. Newly appointed Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar attended the cabinet meeting today, days after splitting the NCP. Both Sharad and Ajit Pawar have claimed that they are, in fact, the real NCP. They've called for a meeting of party MLAs tomorrow, which is expected to be a litmus test for both camps. Ajit Pawar is yet to come out with a list of legislators who he claims are with him. Meanwhile, the Congress party and its Maharashtra legislators also went into a huddle to take stock of the developments. Speaker and BJP MLA Rahul Narvekar said he is yet to ascertain whether the NCP is part of the state government or still in the opposition.
I understand that the petitions have been filed for disqualification of some members of the Legislative Assembly. The merits of these petitions are being perused, and once because as you know that all the provisions of the Civil Procedure Code are applicable to these disqualification petitions. So we'll have to see whether they comply with these provisions.
आज जो महाराष्ट्र की राजकीय परिस्थितियां बनी हुई हैं, इसके आधार पर आज अपोजिशन में सबसे बड़ी पार्टी कांग्रेस ही पार्टी है। तो चर्चा होगी और चर्चा के बाद उसका पूरा रिपोर्ट हाईकमांड को भेजा जाएगा और वो निर्णय आजकल में आ जाएगा। नरेंद्र मोदी और अमित शाह कि ये स्क्रिप्ट जो है वो प्रफुल्ल पटेल पढ़ के बता रहे हैं।
And it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. But before we go, we leave you with a story from Britain's Orkney Islands. It may explore Nordic connections and break away from the English ones. The islands, with a population of 22,000 people and formed with over 70 islands, plans to leave the UK and join the Norway. This decision was taken after they felt financially neglected by both the Scottish and British governments. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching.